Brothers and sisters, we're here at one of the wonders of the world, and this is the edible schoolyard at Martin Luther King High School here in Berkeley. And it is truly a wonder. The students come here during their lunchtime and grow the food that they have. They grow their salad greens, they grow their beans and peas and squash, and also fruits too. There are fig trees here, there are peach and plum trees here. This is a wonder. And it's an inspiration also. Every single schoolyard in these United States can be an edible schoolyard. There's no reason why not. We can do it. This shows you. This is a spark of hope. This is a spark of reassurance. It's a spark showing the ascendancy that we can create here in these United States if only we so focus. Where there's a will, there's a way. Every schoolyard, an edible schoolyard. And we're here for a very, very special time. We're here to do our spring planting. Now it's indeed springtime here in Berkeley in the middle of February, and well do we know that most of you, if you look out your window, you have 2 or 3 feet of snow out there. It's dark and freezing cold. We understand this, but we're going to show you how to start your springtime garden now. Right now, in the privacy of your kitchen. All you need is just a window, a south-facing window, a window that gets sunlight. That's all you need. You can start your springtime garden now. This is one of something we can all do. We can start our lettuce. We can start our our tomatoes. We can start our celery. We can start our Swiss chard. It's all possible, and now is the time. So let's get growing, my dear friends. It seems to us that food is too important to be left to a grower specialist. It is vital, more important than at any other time, for all of us to get back to growing at least a part of the food that we eat. In Thomas Jefferson's time, more than 95% of the people of this land were self-sufficient, more or less, and grew most of the food they eat. And this is a wonderful ideal, and I think we can at least make an approach in this direction. Now, I know that most of you may not be fortunate enough to have a backyard or front yard garden, but you can certainly grow microgreens in your kitchen, and there are innumerable videos on YouTube that will take you step by step and show you just how. Growing it yourself is no longer an option. It is a necessity. It's a necessity because organic is constantly being eroded. USDA regulations state that organic is an ecological production management system that promotes and enhances biodiversity, biological cycles, and soil biological activity. In actuality, more and more so-called organic produce is grown in enormous monocultural fields. Enormous fields of broccoli, of cauliflower, of tomatoes and lettuce and so forth. And because of this lack of biodiversity, these fields are more vulnerable to the rapid spread of pests and disease. Therefore, monocrop production routinely depends upon greater use of organic pesticides throughout the growing season. Furthermore, monoculture degrades the soil and produces crops that are lacking in nutrients, that are deficient in the nutrients upon which we all depend. Another problem with organic is of CAFOs, that is contained animal feeding operations. This is an egregious insult to the world of nature and to all of life. So-called organic eggs, organic milk, and organic meat are produced in huge indoor feeding operations, making a mockery of the requirement that animals should at the very least have some sort of pasture and open space. So that's another reason why we should look with utmost scrutiny at the so-called organic label. Then there is hydroponics. The organic seal does not protect you against food grown in chemical soup instead of soil. Originally, organic agriculture was meant to build the long-term vitality of the soil, but not anymore. There is a tidal wave in hydroponic production of vegetables and fruits. It's enormously popular. Dave Chapman, a Vermont farmer who first sounded the alarm about hydroponics and organics, says that in 5 years, virtually all supermarket certified organic tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers will be hydroponic. It is happening. Those organic raspberries and blueberries and blackberries that you see in the stores in the midst of winter, where are they coming from? They're all coming from Mexico, where they're grown in enormous greenhouse factories. Another reason why so these are a couple considerations as to why it is so necessary for us to get back to growing it ourselves. So, brothers and sisters, let's get started. Okay, so here we go. We're starting our spring garden in winter, and we're going to start with tomatoes. I got these from the Seed Savers Exchange. They specialize in heirloom and vintage varieties, and we have here a rather, a tomato called Tommy Toe, and we're going to plant our Tommy Toe tomato. This happens to be a cherry tomato, and we're planting our Tommy Toe cherry tomato. And then we're going to be planting another tomato called Mexican Midget, another cherry tomato. Okay, that was our Mexican Midget tomato. And now we're going to do a red fig tomato. Has a very, very interesting shape. And we're going to do our red fig tomato, also a very small cherry sort of tomato. Okay, that was our red fig tomato. And another cherry tomato called Red Velvet. Red Velvet tomato. Okay? So that's something like 4 or 5 varieties of tomatoes. And let us move on, brothers and sisters. Let's move on to lettuce, of course. And we're going to planting an heirloom variety of lettuce called Grandpa Hadley's, and it's from the Seed Savers Exchange. So here, Grandpa Hadley's heirloom variety of lettuce. And we're going to plant another remarkable lettuce called Outrageous. And it's called Outrageous because it's a magnificent, profoundly deep red. Outrageous. Done. And then another red lettuce called Red Salad Bowl. We're going to plant an endive. Okay, endive. And we're going to plant a lettuce called Gold Rush. One more. We're going to plant a lettuce called Dark Green Romaine. Okay. And then we're going to be planting some chard. We're going to plant a Swiss chard called Bright Lights. And another Swiss chard called Rhubarb. And that's our spring planting for right now. When I get home, I'm going to take this flat. I'm going to give it a good soaking. I'm going to put this in a clear plastic bag that will keep it moist, and I'm going to set it in a south-facing window. And every other day I will check the moisture and give it another good soaking. It's so important to keep the soil moist. And as I say, one thing that will help is to keep it in a large plastic bag, such as the type of plastic bag that you get from the dry cleaner, and that will keep the moisture in. Basically, be sure to keep it wet, to keep it moist. That is essential in a warm place. In a warm place, as I say, a south-facing window would be fine. So here we go, the beginning. In just a small little tray, we have the beginning of our springtime garden. And I want to share a couple thoughts with you. One of the reasons why we're doing this, and we're doing this planting, and why it's so important for us to get back, is because when we look at the numbers, we see that 38% of Americans are obese. And for the first time, the obesity rate of adult women has surpassed that of adult men. 40% of American women are now considered obese. Tragically enough, obesity among American children is now at 17%. Obesity rates in the U.S. have more than doubled in the past 35 years. By 2025, nearly 45% of American adults will be obese. Let's say that again. In just 7 years, nearly half of Americans will be obese. And remember, obesity, tragic enough in itself, dramatically increases cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Another reason why we're planting for spring is because in 2016, 42,000 Americans died from overdosing on opioid drugs, on painkillers. And this was over 1,000 more deaths that were caused by breast cancer that same year. This is so tragic indeed. And another reason why we're planting a spring garden is because we Americans have never been so isolated, so remote and distant. If we exclude family members, more than half Americans have no one with whom they can share their innermost troubles and joys. An estimated 42 Americans over the age of 45 suffer from chronic loneliness. And more than 25%, a quarter of the U.S. population, live alone. We are becoming a nation of strangers. And that is why, my friends, it seems to me we have to get back to the concept of a victory garden. The victory garden will be a sort of proclamation for us to say that we have to get back to growing food yourself. And therefore, and also if you think about it, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists, time is running out. The hands of the clock are 2.5 minutes towards midnight. That is, the doomsday clock is ticking. So please, brothers and sisters, in your preparedness kit, be sure to include basic gardening tools. Include some packs of vegetable seeds. Include some basic gardening tools like a hand trowel, like a gardening spade. We can do it. Together we can do it. Detroit shall yet be a garden for the human spirit. Jersey City shall yet be an edible schoolyard. Let's go forward, my dear friends. Thank you so much. A privilege talking with you.